Hours, one of the most eagerly awaited video games finally goes on sale.
Preparing to rewrite retail history.
A video game is expected to have bigger first-day revenues than any movie has ever had an opening day at the box office.
Biggest retail launch in entertainment history.
Dozens of grown men and probably about 3 women have crawled out of their parents' basements tonight to be first in line to buy the new video game Halo 2.
Video gamers across the country are anxiously awaiting the midnight release of a game called Halo 2.
45 minutes and counting for Halo 2 to go on sale.
The line right now is probably about 100 yards long.
It is the most anticipated game in entertainment history.
There are few games that come out as strong as Halo 2. After the critical success of Halo Combat Evolved, it seemed impossible for Bungie to catch lightning in a bottle again, let alone create a game that succeeded its older brother in almost every aspect. Halo 2 was released on November 9th, 2004 and set the world record at the time for the best-selling piece of entertainment, selling 8 million copies in total, with 2.4 million of those being in the first 24 hours of release, and earning Bungie $125 million. Halo 2 was so popular that even mainstream media was covering its release, with an active countdown on live television, billboards and bands such as Breaking Benjamin, Incubus and Hoobastank made music for the game. Breaking Benjamin made the song Blow Me Away for free, just for publicity, and it paid off tremendously. Halo 2 really brought Xbox and gaming as a whole into the mainstream. Even if you hated Halo, or lived in the most isolated village on Earth, you knew that this game was coming out, and the world was watching. Where does everyone start when they begin a new game? That's right, it's the main menu. Halo 2's main menu has set a golden standard for home interfaces in video games that I have not yet seen topped. Halo 2's menu combines story, music, visuals and impeccable feedback and navigation. It is truly hard to put into words how brilliant the menu is. Bungie was able to combine Halo 2's story and amazing music into their menu to immediately set the mood and motivations of the player and characters. Upon loading, the player is immediately harassed by Steve Vai's bombastic guitar riffs. This excites the player and prepares them for the game they have waited 3 years for. As excitement fills the player's veins, the pacing is suddenly broken up. The harmonic Gregorian monk chants that are so iconic to Halo slowly infiltrate the player's ears. This slow chant immediately takes the player back. It sets a mood of despair yet otherworldliness, two key themes that we explored across the campaign of Halo 2. The game's menu then slowly materialises with the breathtaking visuals in the background. A Covenant ship burning New Mombasa, a fictional city in Kenya. This immediately sets the player's motivation and the setting for the beginning of the game. The player wants to and needs to destroy that ship before it destroys the rest of the Earth. Looking past the visuals is the actual interface. The 5 options stick out like a pristine thumb. Their sleek yet clearly 2000s era design really sells the player on the game's temporal setting. We and the characters really are in the year 2552. The menu's swift and impactful. Provide perfect feedback to the player. They know exactly which option they're selecting, and the smooth transitions between screens only aid in the world building and navigational ability of the menu. But enough of the menu. It's time to dive into the roller coaster of a story that is Halo 2. Halo 2 is set directly after the events of Combat Evolved.
Shut them down, we'll need them later. Fancy a look?
The ring we destroyed can be clearly seen, shattered and still smouldering adrift in space. However, this time we can see a fleet of Covenant ships patrolling the ring and their mobile homeworld High Charity. In just the beginning scene, the player immediately knows that their journey will take place directly after the first, giving them a temporal setting to latch onto. Furthermore, the player is shown the importance of the ring to the Covenant, which will be expanded upon later in the game. The attention to temporal story setting is brilliant and helps the player an immeasurable amount in understanding where we are in the Master Chief's journey. The camera then fades into High Charity, showing us more of the Covenant's homeworld and their architecture.
There was only one ship.
One? Are you sure?
Yes. They called it the Pillar of Autumn.
Why was it not destroyed with the rest of their fleet?
It fled as we set fire to their planet. But I followed with all the ships in my command.
When you first saw Halo, were you blinded by its majesty?
Blinded?
Paralyzed? Dumbstruck?
No.
Yet the humans were able to evade your ships, land on the sacred ring, and desecrate it with their filthy footsteps.
Noble hierarchs, surely you understand that once the parasite attacked...
There will be order in this council.
You were right to focus your attention on the Flood. But this demon, this Master Chief...
By the time I learned the demon's intent, there was nothing I could do.
Prophet of truth, this has gone on long enough. Make an example of this bungler. The Council demands it.
You are one of our most treasured instruments. Long have you led your fleet with honor and distinction. But your inability to safeguard Halo was a colossal failure.
Nay, it was heresy.
I will continue my campaign against the humans.
No, you will not. Soon the great journey shall begin. But when it does, the weight of your heresy will stay your feet, and you shall be left behind.
This opening is genuinely amazing. it offers returning and newcoming players a recap on the events of the first game without feeling like needless exposition. The entire sequence is jaw-dropping and engaging as we begin to feel sympathetic towards the enemy we were previously fighting. The entire sequence feels like a movie. The Elite, who will later be known as the Arbiter, has its motivations clearly set in the beginning. This is masterful storytelling and offers the player insight into the Covenant instead of them just being aliens in space. Their hierarchy, punishments and goals all explained to the player in a few short sentences. What follows is an introduction of the Master Chief and his new armour, making the player extremely excited and prepared for the journey ahead.
The plating was about to fail. There's viscosity throughout the gel layer. Optics, totally fried. And let's not even talk about the power supply. You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Tell that to the Covenant.
Bungie then uses a split perspective, where the Arbiter and Master Chief are shown in their respective factions and settings.
Folks need heroes, Chief, to give them hope. So smile, would ya? Well, we still got something to smile about.
Drawn quite a crowd. If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed. Are you sure?
Gentlemen, we're lucky to have you back. Go ahead, Cortana.
Another whisper, sir, near Io. We have probes en route.
I apologize, but we're going to have to make this quick.
You look nice.
Thank you.
Sergeant Major, the Colonial Cross is awarded for acts of singular daring and devotion. For a soldier of the United Earth Space Corps.
There can be no greater heresy. Let him be an example for all who would break our covenant.
Commander Miranda Keyes, your father's actions were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service. His bravery in the face of impossible odds reflects great credit upon himself and the UNSC. The Navy has lost one of its best.
Where the Master Chief, and by extension the player, is being celebrated, the Arbiter is being punished. The two sides' differences are clearly shown and expanded upon. The Covenant acts more like a religious tribe, torturing those who fail in front of the population of High Charity, whereas the humans are more organised and calm. The characters' physical settings are also expanded on. High Charity is a dimly lit and frightening home. This uneases the player and allows them to imagine what the rest of the planet and ship is like. In comparison, the human ship Cairo Station is a well-lit and pristine space station. The differences in environment directly pull on the player's emotional strings. They feel safe and secure in the human ship, tightening their bond and allegiance to the human characters, whereas the player feels unsettled and anxious in High Charity, directly causing a subconscious disdain for the Covenant and sympathy for the Arbiter. The split also emphasises the character similarities. Master Chief and the player's equivalent is the Arbiter, Lord Hood to the Three Prophets, and Tartarus to Johnson. These comparisons help the player greatly in understanding the Covenant, an important theme and story pillar of Halo 2. The opening also establishes Earth as a key target for the Covenant as they begin to attack. This gives the player a clear end goal and physical setting: defend Earth or die trying.
Space ruptures directly off our battle cluster.
Show me.
15 Covenant capital ships holding position just outside the kill zone.
This is Fleet Admiral Harper. We are engaging the enemy.
Negative, Admiral. Form a defensive perimeter around the cluster. Commander, get to your ship. Link up with the fleet.
Yes, sir.
You have the mech gun, Cortana. As soon as they come in range, open up.
Gladly.
Something's not right. The fleet that destroyed Reach was 50 times this size.
Sir, additional contacts. Boarding craft and lots of them.
They're going to try to take our mech guns offline. Give their capital ships a straight shot at Earth. Master Chief, defend this station.
Yes, sir. I need a weapon.
Right this way.
The story then gracefully drags the player to many different battlefields across the galaxy, from Earth to Delta Halo to the Covenant's homeworld High Charity. In as brief an overview as possible, the Covenant attack Earth and Master Chief is forced to defend it in one of the most bombastic trio of missions I've ever played, and the coolest cutscene in all of gaming by far.
Me, inside your head, now.
How much time was left?
You don't want to know.
Cairo, this is an Ember class. The carrier shield is down. I'm in position and ready for immediate assault.
Negative, Commander. Not against a ship that size. Not on your own.
Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
I know what you're thinking, and it's crazy.
So, stay here.
Unfortunately for us both, I like crazy. Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
Brick, he flew pretty good.
Chief, get inside. Gear up. We're taking this fight to the surface.
The player then gains an insight on the Arbiter. He locates and kills an elite that has become disillusioned with the Covenant's religion and recovers the Holy Oracle, who we know to be the Halo's monitor from the first game, 343 Guilty Spark. These heretics that the player has just killed plant the seeds for the Arbiter's later dissolution of the Covenant religion. After that, the player is then thrust back into the Master Chief's perspective upon finding another Halo ring. Johnson's surprise reflects the players perfectly as the new setting is slowly transitioned into view. It is now up to the Master Chief to kill the Prophet of Regret who has landed on the ring before he assembles his forces and attempts to fire it. After Regret's awesome boss fight and death, the Master Chief then escapes from a Covenant beam being shot from the ship and dives into the water unconscious. A mysterious tentacle then grabs him and pulls him deeper into the ocean as the player's interest and anxiousness is piqued.
This is not your grave, but you are welcome in it.
The player then switches back to the Arbiter's perspective as he ventures to get the Index, a key to firing the Halo ring for the Prophets. In a heartbreaking scene, the Arbiter finds the Index, Johnson and Miranda Keys. The Arbiter captures them, creating a large rift between the player and the Arbiter until his betrayal a few seconds later.
Johnson, you alright? Johnson!
Excellent work, Arbiter. The Hierarchs will be pleased. The Icon is my responsibility. What's your responsibility? Now it is mine. A bloody fate awaits you and the rest of your incompetent race. And I, Tartarus, chieftain of the brutes, will send you to it. And the prophets learn of this. They will take your head when they learn. Fool. They ordered me to do it.
The Arbiter is shot down a hole by the brute chieftain Tartarus. Now that the Prophets have betrayed the Arbiter and his species, all bets are off the table, and the Great Schism begins. The player's hatred for the Covenant grows. The Arbiter and the Master Chief then meet head to head in the hands of the Gravemind, the Flood's mastermind, located at the bottom of Delta Halo, the very installation built to kill him and his army of zombie-like creatures. The Gravemind explains the situation and sets the two protagonists on their way to prevent the ring from firing. Master Chief is sent to High Charity and the Arbiter to the ring. Master Chief then watches the Prophet of Mercy die and boards the Prophet of Truth's ship back to Earth in an attempt to stop and kill him. Cortana has been left behind in High Charity, with her saddening words being the last thing that the player hears from her until near the end of Halo 3.
To Earth, good luck.
After I'm through with truth.
Don't make a girl a promise.
If you know you can't keep it.
The Arbiter's side of the mission is then shown. He kills Tartarus and prevents the Halo ring from firing, all the while forming an alliance between the elite and humanity. Halo 2's story is so much more complicated and groundbreaking than I could ever do it justice in this video. I highly recommend you play the game for yourself, and I hope that this overview has given you more context on the game's events and what makes it feel like a movie.
Then where? Where would someone go to activate the other rings?
Why the Ark, of course.
And where, Oracle, is that?
The player is split across two perspectives, that of the Master Chief and the Arbiter. The Arbiter was one of Halo 2's biggest complaints and controversies because it was not advertised at all and players only wanted to play as the Master Chief. I would agree with these complaints, if the Arbiter wasn't such a cool, likeable and charismatic protagonist that matches the Master Chief's awesomeness.
You've drawn quite a crowd. If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed. Are you sure?
Bungie took a massive leap when creating the split perspective campaign and it paid off greatly. The Arbiter's side of the story adds so much context to the Covenant. The hierarchy, motivations and internal conflicts are all shown to the player. This is important because it makes the universe we're in feel more alive. They aren't just aliens in space anymore. They're a living, breathing faction that the player is directly involved in. Halo 2 is hands down the most well written game I've ever played. Every line of dialogue is quotable, awesome and perfectly delivered. There is never a moment of boredom and needless shoveling of exposition into the player's mouth. Halo 2 goes with a less is more way of delivering dialogue and it paid off tremendously. The voice acting in Halo 2 is second to none in the industry. Big names like Keith David,
Or release me, parasite. But do not waste my time with talk.
Evan Michael Richardson,
There can be no greater heresy. Let him be an example for all who would break our covenant.
D. Bradley Baker, who has been in everything.
This is not your grave, but you are welcome in it.
And Ron Perlman.
Chief, we've got a problem. The boarding craft from the Malta and the Athens are converging on us.
Were hired to voice act in Halo 2, and it's safe to say they do more than a stellar job. Each line of dialogue they deliver is nothing but soothing music to the ears of players, and their delivery really sells the player on their character's personality and emotions. Keith David's smooth yet deep and harsh voice really makes the Arbiter sound like a battle-worn yet charismatic leader to match the Chief.
What would you have your Arbiter do?
It would be disingenuous to review the dialogue of Halo 2 if I did not talk about the prowess of Steve Downes.
Sir, finishing this fight. Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb. Sir, I need a weapon.
Right this way.
And Jen Taylor.
Chief, when you get to Earth, good luck.
After I'm through with truth.
Don't make a girl a promise.
If you know you can't keep it. Fairly robust security algorithms. I could crack them, but sidestep, cover my tracks, and voila, topside hull schematics.
See, Jen, you just made like all the dorky techno geeks. There's nothing hotter than a woman that can infiltrate topside hull schematics.
Both of these actors bear the weight of Halo 2 on their shoulders. Every line is spoken with precision and in character. Master Chief only has 20 lines of dialogue in Halo 2, yet every single one of them is awesome, memorable, and shows the player more of the Chief's personality, allowing us to connect to our lovable green lump of armour on a more personal level. Halo 2's ending is one of the most controversial aspects of the game's story and as an overall package. Depending on who you ask, Halo 2's cliffhanger ending is the best ending in the gaming industry, or a cardinal sin that only the devils at Bungie could conjure up. Halo 2's ending shows the Master Chief aboard the Prophet of Truth's ship as he enters Earth's atmosphere. What follows is the single most breathtaking line of dialogue the Master Chief has.
Sir, finishing this fight.
The ending of Halo 2 left players immeasurably excited for Halo 3, and was a massive contributor to that game's incredible marketing, coining the iconic phrase, "finish the fight." Halo 2's ending was a result of extensive story cuts.
They probably cut, I mean, at least a third of the total game, maybe as much as half, I don't honestly know. And that's why Halo 2 ended up with such a jarring ending.
Due to harsh time restrictions placed on Bungie by both fans and Microsoft.
No, we can't wait another year, I'm sorry, we can't wait. This game has to come out.
Despite these story cuts and the lackluster ending depending on who you ask, Halo 2 did and still has one of the most interesting and exciting stories in all forms of media.
Get out.
This is Spartan 117.
Can anyone hear me? Over.
Isolate that signal. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
Now that I have finished with my admittedly too extensive review of Halo 2's overall story, I'll dive into its levels. In order to ensure that this review does not go on for too long, I've only chosen one level to analyse. I'll be analysing the game's visual style, gameplay, game mechanics, music, sound effects and player feedback in this lone section. The level that I've chosen to review is Delta Halo, due to its very diverse gameplay.
Cortana, what exactly am I looking at?
That is another Halo. Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
Delta Halo throws the player into the action without a second thought. They are immediately greeted by an ODST and gunfire from the Covenant's plasma weaponry. This fast-paced start and the high-octane music really sets the mood and atmosphere for the mission. The player and his small army of Marines need to find the Prophet of Regret quickly, before he can stabilise his forces on the ring and activate it. The player will notice from both the cutscene and now the gameplay that the ring's nature is very similar to that of Earth's and the ring from the previous game. This creates an almost uncanny valley feeling amongst players. They know that this place is not Earth and is in fact a dangerous galaxy destroying weapon, yet it feels weirdly like home. The ring is always visible, reminding the player of where they are and their objectives, whilst providing blissful moments of awe that the first game captured perfectly and Halo 2 replicates. The player is also greeted by one of Halo 2's most interesting and comedic game mechanics, the Marines. The Marines are non-player controlled characters, or NPCs for short, that aid the player in combat. The Marines can also trade weapons with the player, ride in their vehicle and provide helpful and comedic dialogue. Delta Halo does a perfect job of introducing the weapon trading mechanic to players if they have somehow not been introduced to it yet. The Marine slowly approaches the player, who only has a rocket launcher and SMG. The SMG in Halo 2 is not as useful as the battle rifle, which the Marine in front of the player has and the player knows. This prompts and encourages players to try and take the battle rifle from the Marine, which then causes the button prompt signifying a weapon trade to appear. This subtle way of introducing the weapon trading mechanic ensures that the player knows of its existence and can make creative use of it without ruining the level's pacing with a tutorial screen appearing. Soon after starting the level, the player will encounter their enemies, the Grunts, Jackals and Elites. Each of these species or enemies provides the player with a different way to play and different ways to defeat them. The Elites are the player's equal, with powerful weaponry and the same shield system. They require a lot of firepower to take down. Their design is very sleek, with sharp, jagged helmets and armour pieces that add to their deadliness. The Grunts are short and stubby, with clumsy looking methane tanks strapped to their back. This only emphasises their inferiority in the Covenant's ranking and very poor combat ability. The Jackals are a cunning and resourceful enemy. They know they cannot beat you in combat alone, so they enlist the help of a shield. Their long bird-like beaks and scruffy design illustrate their personality and their actions in combat perfectly. It's no secret that Bungie used the Aliens movie as an inspiration for Halo 2's overall visual style. The Elites are designed after the xenomorph from Aliens. The Marines' personalities, dialogue and armour all mimic those in Aliens. The overall visual style of the human ship mimics the ship design in Aliens. Sergeant Johnson is heavily inspired by Sergeant Apone, and the list goes on. Bungie has created an art style that feels grounded, desperate and unique. There are no extortionately bright lights touching every metallic surface like in most sci-fi shooter games. Halo 2's art style keeps the player grounded. They're not transported to an unbelievable world. Everything that the player sees could exist, and the smooth art style that lacks the visual clutter of modern shooters provides unmatched visual clarity when fighting enemies and portrays Halo's themes perfectly. The enemies in Halo are all colour coded in bright and primary colouring, which signifies their rank and enemy type. For example, the bright orange of a Grunt and deep blue of an Elite's armour stand out perfectly against the dull Forerunner architecture and vibrant jungles of Delta Halo. This visual clarity and feedback helps greatly when the player needs to identify threats quickly and adapt their movement and strategy to combat them. Too often in modern video games do the enemies blend into the environment too perfectly, creating an unfun and boring game of scanning through the environment 10 times over just to find them. Now is a perfect time to talk about the player feedback found within the Delta Halo mission and Halo 2 as a whole. Feedback is an essential aspect of video games that show the player the consequence of their actions or of another element within the game. Halo 2 provides the player with a frankly insane amount of information that aids them in their journey across the campaign. The first aspect of feedback that I will cover is interface feedback. The player can clearly see their health bar depleting and a visual flash on the screen when they are taking damage. This feedback enables the player to make critical decisions based on the game's current state. They immediately understand through the feedback cues what type of situation they are in. Halo 2's feedback cues are extremely easy to understand and take notice of, such as the audible shield beeping sound that plays once the player has no shields left. As a result, the player can better adapt. Clarity in feedback is so important in video games, and there are countless examples that limit the feedback presented to the player and thus make the overall experience less enjoyable. The player is also given a mass amount of feedback from the enemy's movements and animations. The enemies that the player will face noticeably react to taking damage. For example, the elite shields will flare up, jackals will jerk the shield out of the way and grunts will stagger backwards when shot. These animation based feedback details give the player a critical amount of information that allows them to make split-second decisions on their next move. Many games, such as multiple Call of Duty games, do not provide the player with adequate feedback when they are damaging enemies. For example, enemy AI in COD do not stagger or fall backwards, and their feedback cues are much more difficult to notice. It could be argued that this adds to the realism and tacticalism of the franchise, but I disagree. It leaves the player confused and creates a less coherent experience. Now for the game mechanics. Halo 2 of course has the standard set of first-person shooter mechanics, i.e. jumping, shooting and crouching. But Halo 2's main combat mechanic that makes it unique to shooters of its age is the two-weapon system. The player is only allowed to carry 2 weapons at once. This forces the player to get creative with how they use their weapons in many different scenarios they will find themselves in. Additionally, the player needs to think more strategically. Do they grab the SMG for the close quarters section coming up, or do they keep the trusty battle rifle that is a jack of all trades in every situation? The two-weapon system also balances the game well and introduces a skill gap to Halo 2. Players cannot just carry all of the power weapons or the rocket launcher and sniper rifle like in the Doom games and older first-person shooters, and thus they are not going to kill each player or enemy that they face easily, especially if they have not chosen their weapons strategically. This two-weapon system is now extremely popular in the gaming industry, with nearly every first-person shooter following its rules and designs. Another very important mechanic that balances the game perfectly is the D-scope mechanic. In Halo 2, when the player is shot, their weapon will automatically unzoom. This leaves the player disoriented and in need of finding cover. Furthermore, it balances the gameplay greatly. The player cannot simply just take the shots and carry on shooting. They're forced to take cover and reposition, or risk carrying on shooting at the enemy and die first when they have the advantage. Additionally, I would like to go over Halo 2's difficulty. Halo 2 and the previous game Halo CE popularised the 4 ranges of difficulty called Easy, Normal, Heroic and Legendary in the Halo franchise. The difficulty in Halo 2 is its absolute worst feature and iteration in the franchise. The easy and normal modes feel like a cakewalk, and the heroic and legendary difficulties feel almost impossible to complete. The enemies deal more damage at a much faster rate, which is not helped by the player's vastly decreased health.
In Halo 1, it takes exactly 23 shots to kill you with a plasma rifle. Now, do you have any idea how many it takes in Halo 2? You want a hint? 6. 6 fucking shots, and you're dead. They shoot the guns faster too. A single burst can kill you in less than a second. What the flip yap is this? The exact time to kills I recorded just by standing still was 10.25 seconds for CE and 1.6 seconds for Halo 2. I mean, what in truth's name happened?
The worst offender of all that has created a terrifying name for itself in the community is the Sniper Jackal.
Immediate. Grid Kilo 2-3 is hot. Recommend mission abort.
We're going in.
Sniper Jackals kill the player in one shot, no matter the situation, with no indication they're about to attack. Furthermore, the Sniper Jackals almost never miss. If they do somehow miss you, you should definitely 100% go and buy a lottery ticket. The player is not even safe in vehicles because of the rocket launcher's lock-on mode that makes it impossible to dodge and almost always kills the player immediately. The player dies so fast that the interface cannot even load.
Not even the flood can stop it. Boo. Kill the demon.
Roots! The faster you can...
The player is forcibly thrust into playing only with a battle rifle and plasma pistol, removing all creativity and fun from the game. A major shame considering how amazing the weapon sandbox is and how well Combat Evolved did the different difficulty settings. Moving on, we have the vehicles. Vehicles are a major gameplay pillar of the Halo games. They completely flip the gameplay on its head and create an adrenaline-fueled power trip that immerses the player greatly. The vehicles in Halo all operate differently and force the player to play and plan their next moves in drastically different ways. The Warthog, as you can see, requires 2 other passengers for it to function optimally, and this forces the player to use it in different scenarios. For example, if I have no Marines near me and I have the choice between a Warthog and a Ghost, I'm going to pick the Ghost because I can function optimally with it. The Scorpion provides an even larger dose of dopamine straight to the player's head. It's so much fun blasting the Covenant vehicles up into the air and watching the Elite or Grunt piloting it spin before smashing up on the ground. A majorly awesome feature that Bungie added in Halo 2 is the ability to hijack vehicles. This was of course inspired by the recent release of GTA San Andreas, which captivated Bungie. Vehicle hijacking opens up the player's options when dealing with enemy vehicles and allows them to improvise. There's no better feeling than jumping onto a Wraith, pummeling its driver hatch, and then throwing a grenade in before jumping off and watching it promptly explode. The hijacking mechanic also adds much needed balance to the vehicles that was sorely missing from CE. Too often, players would be cornered by vehicles with nothing to do but submit. However, now they can combat the vehicles much easier and turn them against the enemy. Vehicles in Halo 2, unlike Combat Evolved, provide the player with much more clear and understandable feedback. The vehicles have physical damage that appears on their surface, that signifies to the player that they are taking damage and enables them to make a decision to either leave the vehicle or attempt to make a final last stand. Decisions like these are what makes gameplay unique. There are two completely different outcomes that are possible to experience, and players will have vastly different experiences to one another because of these decision-making opportunities. It would be boring if we all made the same decisions and had the exact same experiences. In this section, Off the Rock, Through the Bush, Nothing But Jackal, Marty O'Donnell's musical prowess is brought back into the limelight. Marty's track Peril is immediately played once the title card has appeared. The song emphasises exploration and is a slower, more relaxing song in Halo 2's bombastic soundtrack. It slows the pacing down drastically, which is only exacerbated by the jackal in front of the player. Due to the perfect placement by Bungie, the player is heavily encouraged and likely to stealthily kill the jackal. This slows the pace of the level and calms the player down before showing them the large play area in front of them. Slowing of the pace allows the player to recollect their thoughts and refocus on the mission. Furthermore, it signifies a wrapping up of the mission that the player is on, offering them a calm before the storm moment before the extremely high-octane assassination of regret in the next mission. Another great combat game mechanic that Halo 2 employs is dual wielding. Dual wielding really empowers the player and makes them feel like a super soldier, increasing their immersion. Dual wielding also enables the player to get creative and increases mission replayability. They can dual wield so many combinations of weapons. The dual wielding is perfectly balanced by Bungie, using their half a cookie philosophy. A single SMG is considered half of the cookie and does half of the damage, whereas dual wielding the SMG creates a full cookie and the player can do the maximum amount of damage with the limitation and balancing of not being able to throw grenades and aiming being more difficult. The final sections of Delta Halo set up the objective, win and loss condition of the next mission by introducing and making clear Regret's plans on the ring. This only helps the player's eagerness to kill him, increasing their excitement for the next mission, Regret. Excitement in this way immerses the player and keeps them in the game whilst also moving the story forward. The player knows exactly where they are in the story's temporal setting and physical setting, leading to a coherent narrative and enjoyment pulsating from the player.
Wait, go back. That's what I thought he said. The Prophet of Regret is planning to activate Halo.
Are you sure?
I shall light this holy ring, release its cleansing flame, and burn a path into the divine beyond.
Pretty much.
Commander, we've got a problem.
So I hear. But from what I understand, the Prophet will need an object, the Index, to activate the ring. I've located a library similar to the one you found on the first Halo. If the rings work the same way, the Index should be inside.
I'll bet the Covenant are thinking the exact same thing.
Then we better beat them to it, Sergeant. Extract your men and meet me at the library.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll secure the Index, Chief. You take out the Prophet. He's given us all the intel we need.
Unfortunately, Delta Halo and all the missions in Halo 2 are very linear. Combat Evolved gave players a large sandbox to fight in and explore, fueling the player's creativity and imagination. However, Halo 2 is very corridor to corridor, room to room, creating less enjoyable gameplay for those who seek more freedom. Some aspects of Halo 2's levels can be repetitive. Try taking a shot every time you're trapped in a room and forced to kill enemies until a door opens. There's no doubt that the linear design was a result of the extremely harsh time constraints placed on Bungie. The 2003 E3 demo showed a new Mombasa that looked extremely open and provided the player with a large amount of freedom. Due to the time constraints, this freedom was removed in favour of releasing a finished game, which does demand some respect, especially in the video game industry today, where games are released half-broken for years. Despite the restriction in player freedom, Halo 2's missions do not fail to feel unique, unlike many other linear shooters like Call of Duty. The player is in so many diverse situations and environments that they almost forget they're travelling down the corridor for the 50th time. Halo 2 is the king of multiplayer, both in 2004 and the present day. It was the game that launched Xbox Live and online gaming on consoles. Halo 2's digital couch is still a concept used today and formed the basis of the Xbox 360's party chat functionality that every single multiplayer game released after it is using. The multiplayer was an unreal experience. Large battles between teams of 8 were surreal to experience. Watching your teammates jump onto the enemy Scorpion and throw grenades into it as you cover them with the sniper rifle felt simply like a dream. Halo 2 could be played casually and competitively to great effect, something that cannot be said for games today. Button combinations created an insanely large skill gap that made watching esports tournaments beyond captivating and awe-inspiring. Watching the rivalries between competitors Walshy and T-Squared was extremely fun to watch. One moment that I remember is when Walshy, a Halo 2 pro that I've actually played against, used 2 needlers to kill his rival T-Squared in the middle of an MOG game.
And Walshy's got double needlers, uh-oh.
Is T-Squared over there? I got a present for him. No.
Just unloading on T-Squared with the needler.
Walshy making a statement right there to T-Squared saying your team does not belong in this match against Final Boss. Yeah! That's some showmanship right there. I don't know. T-Squared cannot feel very good about that. Look at his face.
In case you didn't know, the needler is by far the worst weapon in Halo 2. This moment alone made me see how exciting Halo esports and esports as a whole is to watch, which I've done ever since. Button combos were the most controversial aspect of Halo 2's multiplayer by far. Whilst they did alienate lower skilled players and led to much less enjoyment if you cannot pull them off, it was just as viable to play without them, ensuring that these lower skilled players were not completely left in the dust. Even though button combos are an exploit and even considered cheating jokingly by Bungie, the button combos feel so welcome and at home in Halo 2. The multiplayer maps in Halo 2 are a joy to traverse and fight in, each one designed with such care and precision that a sculptor would be jealous. Midship, one of the greatest multiplayer maps that I've played, is a perfectly balanced arena that provides palm-sweating competitive play and laugh-inducing casual play. It has been remade in every Halo game released since Halo 2. If that doesn't show its perfection, I'm not quite sure what will. The multiplayer truly is something that you need to experience yourself to understand how captivating and enjoyable it is. Halo 2 is a perfect sequel to the first game and holds up tremendously well considering it is now an 18-year-old game. It captivated players with its surreal story and near perfect gameplay and made Master Chief a household name next to the likes of Mario and Sonic. Whilst its levels are far more linear than the first, Halo 2 does not disappoint or become stale. The player travels across so many different environments with their own unique level design that it's hard to get bored. Not to mention the groundbreaking multiplayer. Halo 2 launched Xbox Live and introduced the digital couch to the entire industry. The digital couch is still used every day by gamers in almost every game that exists. It's an experience that I could not recommend more to fans of the industry and first-person shooters.
Carrier, your pilot's led up. And down here is the goddamn apocalypse. I'm asking you to retarget the orbiters.
And let more of them sweep the kill zone, that's insanity.